What's up, boys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm on UFC 4 and I'm going to host a 16 fighter bracket in the light heavyweight division, letting the game decide who would be the champion if this were possible. The light heavyweight division has been up for grabs for several years and it has a ton of young talent on the rise. No one has been able to defend the belt against an actual light heavyweight since John Jones was crashing cars and failing drug tests. Yuri Prochazka won the belt in June after 3 fights in the UFC. He's a solid and entertaining champion for now that checks a lot of boxes. He's 29-3, he's got a great haircut and a hard name to pronounce. When coming up with the bracket, I wanted to leave the rankings completely untouched, but the game is missing 4 of the top 15 contenders. I decided to replace the missing spots with fighters who are in the division in the game and with fighters who have fought in recent years. Filling in at the 16 spot will be Alexander Gustafsson. He's one of the best fighters of all time to never win a belt. He's pretty much the Charles Barkley of the UFC. He holds a 10-8 record in the UFC and is currently on a 4-fight losing streak. At number 15 will be Luke Rockhold. He's 6-5 in the UFC after last night's loss against Paulo Costa. It was one of the weirdest fights I've ever witnessed that ended up with him smearing his own blood on his opponent's face. I'd love to post a breakdown video on it, but the UFC is like North Korea when it comes to copyright strikes on YouTube. Number 13 will be Anthony Johnson. He's 13-6 in the UFC, currently coming off a knockout win in Bellator, and since 2015 he's only lost to Daniel Cormier. And at the top fill-in spot will be number 7, Corey Anderson. He won the Ultimate Fighter Season 19, then went 10-5 in the UFC. His last loss was to Jan Blachowicz, and since then he went to Bellator to compete in a $1 million tournament and is currently waiting for a championship date. Here's a complete bracket. Gustafsson will be thrown to the wolves again and have to fight the defending champ Yuri. Number 9, Uzdemir will fight number 8, Reyes. The man with the best record in the division, Magomed, will have to fight the underrated fill-in fighter Anthony Johnson. Krylov of Ukraine will take on Rakic of Austria. Their countries are no stranger to war. It's sure to be a battle in this one. On the other side of the bracket, we have the former champion Glover Teixeira taking on Luke Rockhold. Taking on the highest ranked fill-in Corey Anderson will be number 10, Thiago Santos. Number 3, Jan Blachowicz has to take on the lanky human punching bag, number 14, Johnny Walker. And Paul Craig, the man who puts on war paint just to pull guard the whole match, will take on number 6, Anthony Smith. The first round will be in the UFC Apex. The AI difficulty will always be set to legendary, and all fights will be 3 rounds until the championship. Starting us off in round 1, we have Yuri vs Gustafsson. It was a pretty slow start to the fight. Gustafsson was getting some shots in, but it was pretty clear that this was a mismatch. Yuri landed some solid shots in the first, but never knocked him down until the second. He then landed a spinning bitch slap, an orthodox one, and knocked him down with a front kick, but he was able to get back up. Things got out of hand quickly. He stunned him, followed up by knocking him down twice. Might have snuck in a locker emote there. Gustafsson had one opportunity to win the fight in the second, but he couldn't catch up to him in time. And before the round was over, he just took on way too much brain damage. The next one is a very close matchup between 2 4-star kickboxers. Number 8, Reyes versus number 9, Uzdemir. Uzdemir came out aggressively looking for a knockout with the right overhand, but Reyes was landing some nice combos as well and dropped him with a body kick. He then controlled him on the ground for nearly 2 minutes, went for an arm triangle, but Uzdemir was saved by the bell. In the next round, Uzi came out swinging again and was landing big combinations. Reyes responded with a head kick knockdown. Thankfully this time I wasn't forced into watching 2 sweaty men cuddle on the ground for the rest of the round. If I wanted to watch that, I would just turn my attention to my second monitor. They reached the third round and I would call it even so far, with Uzi winning the second. In the third, Uzi started to use his kicks, which overwhelmed the CTE'd Reyes. Uzi had no intention of taking it to the ground and I loved it. He ended up knocking out Reyes and landing some extra credit on his face. He'll be facing the champion Yuri in the second round. The 200-pound Khabib should have his hairy hands full against a kickboxer, Anthony Johnson. Johnson looked like he was still learning the controls, but it was working early. He dropped Magomed after throwing an overhand 4 times in a row in 8 seconds. Magomed was able to score some points after tossing him and knocking him down, but Anthony could have won this round with his left hand tied behind his back. The second round was much different. Magomed had a versatile attack that led to a knockdown. He took full mount and secured an armbar. If a Russian MMA fighter with a full beard is sitting on top of you, you might as well call it quits before you leave the cage looking like Stephen Hawking. Magomed came back and won this one and is advancing to the quarterfinals. He'll be facing the winner of the next fight, Rakic versus Krylov. Rakic came out landing everything with his legs. Flying knee, leg kick, body shot, head shot, cum shot, it didn't matter. He dominated the first round. The turning point of the fight ended up being when Krylov injured his lead leg and had to fight southpaw. Afterwards, the Ukrainian started to dominate the second round. Rakic couldn't land his kicks. Krylov was doing damage damage, he got a takedown, and he stunned him with a kick of his own. Krylov definitely won round 2, and it should be tied if the first round wasn't a 10-8. In the final round, Krylov landed the first big shot. It's like this game is trying to tell him he's fighting the wrong way in real life. He was getting bullied when fighting in the orthodox stance. Then he goes southpaw and hits a 360 no-scope. But regardless, Rakic owned the last minute of the first round and it went to a decision. Rakic won by a unanimous decision and will be facing Magomed in the quarterfinals. Moving on to the other side of the bracket, number 2 Teixeira takes on number 15 Rockhold. This fight had some potential at first, but Rockhold missed a big overhand and was taken down by the Brazilian. He was manhandled on the ground and it was over from there. In hindsight, I wish I would have switched Gustafsson and Rockhold, but sadly I don't think either of them had a chance at winning this. Next up is number 7 Corey Anderson versus number 10 Thiago Santos. Anderson is a wrestler, but he wasn't looking like much of one. He kept attempting takedowns but never got one in the entire fight. Meanwhile, Thiago was winning almost every exchange on the feet. The only highlight for Anderson was him ass-fisting Santos after a spinning kick, and I'm pretty certain that move has been banned for quite a while now. Second round was pretty similar. Anderson goes for a takedown, gets stopped with an uppercut, tries standing up with him, gets his shit rocked. Santos even started going for a bonus check, and it ended up looking like a Jake Paul fight. Anderson made it interesting by getting past the first, and then he took a dive. Thiago Santos was very impressive in this one. He successfully defended all 22 takedown attempts. The former champ Jan Blachowicz is taking on the only fighter under 4 stars in this tournament, Johnny Walker. He has the largest reach at 6 foot 10 inches, but we all know what's about to happen here, so I'll just cut to the chase. The last fight of the first round is Anthony Smith versus one of my least favorite fighters based off his last fight versus Oezdemir, Paul Craig. Their stats are almost identical, but Smith is much better standing up. He was damaging his head near the point of knockout, but Craig was able to pull guard, locked in a triangle choke, and Paul Craig wins. Here's an updated quarterfinal bracket. Yuri Prochazka will have a rematch with Oezdemir. In their last fight, Yuri had an impressive knockout in his UFC debut. Underneath them is a great first-time matchup in number 4 Magomed versus number 5 Rakic. 2 Brazilians will be matched up on the other side, which reminds me no Americans are left in this competition. Actually, all 3 upsets were us. And the final matchup is number 3 Jan Blachowicz versus number 11 Paul Craig. The champion has a 5-inch reach and hairline advantage in this one. This game doesn't do Yuri justice for how wild of a fighter he is in real life, but here's a glimpse of it with a double spinning elbow. He then gets his first knockdown of the round with a quick left hand. Uzi was holding up through the first. He got caught with a knee to the spine, but for the most part, his defense was solid. Uzi gets his first big shot of the fight with an overhand left. He can't follow up on it, but I love that he's willing to drain his stamina for a possible TKO. He gets another good shot late in the first, but Yuri, brain damaged and all, is still dodging his punches. This round was very even, but the champ was able to finish strong in the last 10 seconds. He stunned him and avoided every strike. Midway through the second, Yuri lands a nice knee. He gets out of the clinch, opens up with a jab, and lands a big elbow. Uzi is fighting back though, spinning back fist into a combo. Yuri's backing up, but Uzi keeps stalking him like an ex-girlfriend. He throws a feint and lands a nice shot, probably breaking his nose. Yuri's out on his feet, but ducks under one and takes a hook to the temple. Uzi does not go down to wrestle. He goes full on Ray Rice on his face. He's from a neutral country, but he loves violence. This man is a menace. He TKO'd the defending champ in the second round, and Uzi, the bald beast, is the first man to go to the semifinals. We have 2 balanced fighters, both 30 years of age. Magomed has a half-star advantage, but Rakic has a height and reach advantage. Rakic had some decent defense, but Magomed was winning the close exchanges early on. To get out of the clinch, nice left uppercut, jab, right uppercut. He goes down on him.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Rakic goes for a guillotine on the Russian. They fight bears and a dictatorship over there, so this choke isn't about to work on him. Magomed counters into a Von Flu, and watch the red and blue bars on the bottom here because Rakic is quickly escaping this. The bar is almost at the end and then it just stops. And I think that's because he went unconscious. That was beautiful. Magomed advances and will face Oezdemir in the semifinals. Next up is the Brazilians. Teixeira is a boxer with a half-star advantage on the kickboxer Santos. Santos was getting the best of Teixeira early in the first. This fight was awesome. They literally would back off each other just to regain their stamina so they could come back in and duke it out. Less than a minute to go in the first, and Teixeira was able to steal the round with his old man strength. In the second, Santos started to land some big combinations and got the first knockdown of the fight. He followed it up with a very illegal move, straight out of Nacho Libre. Santos showed off his takedown defense where he clocks you with an uppercut on the way in, but Teixeira finally catches a second win to possibly steal another round.
Well, he was a little bit lackluster in round one. You can't say the same here in this second round.
This fight might have been the best one so far. Tons of action, tons of blood, and the two Brazilians kept it off the mat for a great fight. Paul Craig is up next, so I wouldn't expect that again in this fight. We get one big combo from Jan. He stuns him, knocks him down, and tries kicking him in the face while he's on the ground. He throws another big kick, and Craig takes him down. 2 minutes later, and Paul Craig wins by an armbar submission. They threw 31 strikes combined. Fuck you, Paul. Seeds 1 through 3 were defeated in the quarterfinals. The highest ranked fighter left, number 4 Magomed, is matched up against number 9 Uzdemir. This is a rematch that Magomed won by unanimous decision. And on the other side, number 10 Thiago Santos will have to put his takedown defense to work against number 11 Paul Craig. Magomed came out slow in these semifinals and was getting his ass whooped. He wasn't able to do any damage until early in the second. They get out of the clinch and Magomed gets caught with an uppercut. Uzi presses like he always does, but nothing really happens. Uzi goes roadhouse on his head. He stuns him twice and knocks him down in a span of 10 seconds. There's 1 minute left in the round and Magomed is put to sleep on what looks like a headbutt.
He knows he needs to start looking to finish now because he's
Magomed was looking as limp as a gay man in Hooters, but he keeps eating big shots while giving up his back. He then flips over and starts a submission attempt with only 30 seconds left in the round. It ends up being a Kimura. The escape and submit bars are close and time is running out, but Magomed pulls away, and with only 3 seconds left in the round, Uzi taps. Uzdemir had a fantastic run and was dominating this fight, but he shouldn't have followed him to the mat. Magomed's winning highlight even featured him getting put to sleep. It's a miracle he was able to pull off this win. Magomed was losing in every category besides him going 1 for 10 on takedowns, but still the Russian is going to the finals. Thiago Santos versus Paul Craig, kickboxer versus jiu-jitsu specialist. This fight started off so slow that DC just started lying in the commentary.
Oh, you heard him bad with a jab.
look at him drive his shin into the opponent's body with that body.
The second round started with Santos stuffing a takedown and making him pay for it. Then again, this man keeps going for highlight reel knockouts. The rest of the round was small exchanges and Santos was stuffing takedowns. A very uneventful fight so far. As soon as the third round started, Santos landed 2 huge kicks. He goes Karate Kid and kickboxes the shit out of him. Craig finally stuns him 2.5 minutes into the third. He pulls guard and goes into a triangle choke, but Santos is able to escape. He had an easy opportunity to get up, wait 2 minutes, and win by decision, but instead he gives him full mount and takes an orgy of shots to the face.
Lands the ground and pound strike. Oh, and that one snapped the head back. The referee has seen enough.
Early stoppage in my opinion. Santos was up 20-10. He could have ran in circles for 2 minutes and won, but nope. Fucking number 11 Paul Craig is going to the championship. Sweet. This is a 5-round fight and both fighters come out timid to strike like most great championship fights. They get in the clinch and Magomed dominates with knees, hits him on the way out.
Where you going? You're lost. Dollar Tree headset, so free, freer than a public restroom. You're literally dog water, 0 PR, earnings check. Oh wait, you have none.
Magomed tosses him, but Craig is a fucking superhero in this game. He gets right back up to his feet. They're finally starting to bang. The fight is getting good and takedown by Craig. But off the back, Magomed gives him a taste of his own medicine. The look on his face is amazing. We were sharing the exact same emotions at this moment. I don't even know exactly what he's doing here, but he looks like a bully at recess making a kid eat dirt. Paul Craig taps, Magomed wins and has won the light heavyweight tournament. I think this tournament was a success because Magomed is the man that will likely become the next champion and be able to defend the belt. But this game clearly values wrestling a bit too much in legendary mode. Speaking of, Craig looked like he was enjoying this a little bit too much. Spread out in ho-level doggy style, doesn't even fight it, just accepts it. That's gonna do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'd love to see a tournament like this in the UFC maybe every 4 or 5 years for a large sum of money in each division. But I also think they should allow 200-pound women to fight in the UFC. It would be a bunch of big bitches tossing each other around like a World Star video. Maybe I'm just full of bad ideas, but this was fun. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.